The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Franz Kafka doesn't ease you into the metamorphosis. He kicks down the door. Within the very first line, the absurd becomes the norm, and the norm collapses under its own weight. One morning, Gregor Samsa wakes up not to an existential crisis or a stomachache, but as a gigantic insect. No warning, no gradual transformation, just BAM. Exoskeleton, twitchy legs, and all. Welcome to Kafka's world, where the surreal isn't a detour from reality but a twisted mirror held right up to it. The Metamorphosis is not just a bizarre tale of a man-turned-bug. It's a masterclass in alienation, guilt, identity, and the quiet horror of ordinary life. It's also funny in a "I really shouldn't be laughing but I can't help it" kind of way. Kafka manages to weave existential dread with domestic drama, and somehow, he makes it sing. Let's dive into the Samsa household, where a monstrous transformation is about to unravel everything and reveal truths we'd rather keep hidden. Part 1. The Bug in the Bedroom. Gregor Samsa, a traveling salesman who works tirelessly to support his parents and sister, wakes up one morning to find himself transformed into a monstrous vermin. That's the phrase Kafka uses, though he intentionally avoids precise bug taxonomy. Is it a cockroach? A beetle? A Kafkaesque invention? Who knows, and that ambiguity is part of the point. At first, Gregor is more annoyed than terrified. He worries not about his grotesque appearance, but about being late for work. The absurdity of this reaction is brilliant. Here is a man-turned-insect, still anxious about missing a train and disappointing his boss. That's Kafka's genius. The surreal doesn't cancel the mundane, it intensifies it. Gregor tries to roll out of bed, struggling with his new appendages. The door is locked, and his family is concerned. His manager even shows up at the apartment, barking accusations through the door about poor performance and absenteeism. Gregor finally manages to open the door, but the sight of him sends the manager fleeing and his family into hysterics. His father drives him back into his room with a cane and a newspaper, as if swatting at an oversized pest. This first section is a brilliant collision between the horrifying and the ridiculous. We feel Gregor's confusion and sadness, but we're also confronted with a question. What if the real horror isn't his transformation, but how quickly he becomes disposable? Part 2. Life in the Shell. Gregor is now confined to his room. He can no longer communicate with his family. His voice is insect-like and incomprehensible. The once doting son becomes a source of shame. His parents avoid him. His sister Greta, initially sympathetic, brings him food and cleans the room, but even her compassion begins to fade. Kafka subtly paints Gregor's descent, not into monstrosity, but into irrelevance. He listens through the door as the family discusses their finances and plans for survival without his income. He's still thinking like a human, still caring for them, still trying to help. But they're already moving on. In Kafka's world, identity is fragile and worth is transactional. When Gregor stops bringing home the bacon, he stops being Gregor. His room becomes less like a bedroom and more like a storage closet. The family dumps furniture into it, signaling not just neglect but dehumanization. In a poignant scene, Gregor climbs the walls and ceiling, liberated in a sense by his insect body, only for his mother to faint upon seeing him. Even in this brief moment of agency, he is a source of horror, not awe. What makes this section so unsettling isn't the grotesque transformation. It's how easily his humanity is erased. The people who loved him most now treat him like furniture at best, an infestation at worst. Part 3. The Long Crawl to Nowhere. Time passes. Gregor's condition worsens. He becomes more lethargic, his body weakening. Greta's care dwindles, her affection replaced by resentment. She begins to speak of him not as her brother, but as it. The family hires a trio of roomers to make ends meet, strangers who are kept away from the abomination in the other room. There's a heartbreaking irony here. Gregor, who lived only to serve his family, now lives at their mercy, and they want him gone. One night, when Greta plays the violin for the tenants, Gregor crawls out to hear the music. It's one of the last moments he feels truly moved, almost human. But his appearance terrifies the guests and sparks outrage. That night, Greta declares what no one else dares to say aloud: Gregor must go. He's no longer her brother. He's a burden. Her words aren't screamed in hatred, they're delivered with a cold, resigned practicality. And that's what cuts deepest. Gregor retreats to his room, broken not by violence but by heartbreak. He dies alone, quietly, almost willingly. The cleaning lady discovers his body the next morning and announces his death casually, as if it were just another task to tick off. And just like that, Gregor Samsa is gone. Aftermath. A family reborn, but at what cost? In the final pages, the Samsas experience a strange, almost grotesque renewal. They feel relief. They take a walk in the sunshine. They talk about their future. Greta, once a symbol of compassion, becomes a symbol of survival. The story ends not with mourning, but with the family planning a brighter tomorrow, now that the burden is lifted. It's a chilling end not because the family is evil, but because they're so ordinary. Their reaction isn't monstrous, it's human. Painfully, recognizably human. And that's Kafka's point. Themes: bugged by modern life, alienation and identity. Gregor's transformation is a metaphor for alienation. At work, at home, in society. His body becomes a literal manifestation of what he already felt. Bug-like, insignificant, expendable. Kafka shows us how thin the line is between being loved and being tolerated. The tyranny of utility. As long as Gregor was useful, he was valuable. The moment he stopped producing, he became a problem to solve, not a person to cherish. This brutal utilitarianism echoes across time, especially in societies that value output over empathy. Family and conditional love. Kafka doesn't vilify the Samsas. He just shows how fragile love can be when conditions change. The transformation exposes not just Gregor's physical state, but the underlying dynamics of a household that had long depended on a single member to function. Absurdity as truth. The transformation itself is never explained. No curse, no experiment gone wrong. That's the point. In Kafka's universe, the absurd is just as real as the rational. The world doesn't owe us answers, and sometimes it mocks our need for them. Final thoughts. A Bug's Life, a mirror to ours. The Metamorphosis is not a story about a man becoming an insect. It's about a man who always felt like one, and what happens when the world finally sees him that way. Kafka gives us a strange, sad, oddly funny tale that refuses to comfort us. It doesn't explain. It doesn't resolve. It simply shows. And in showing us Gregor Samsa's fate, it holds up a mirror to our own lives. How often do we define ourselves by our roles, our productivity, our ability to serve others? How easily do we ignore those who can no longer give us what we want? How many of us, even now, feel a little bug-like in a world that moves too fast and listens too little? Kafka may not offer solutions, but he offers something rarer, an unflinching, unforgettable look into the soul of modern life. And if that doesn't give you chills, or at least make you a little more grateful for your arms and legs this morning, I don't know what will.